chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you. My young nigga with a Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm here to present to you, as you have guessed from the title, it's a tutorial about how to make crepes and Bofrot, as they say in Ghana, Botokoin as we say in Togo, and puff as they say in Nigeria. And in the US we just tell people it's called donuts, even though it's better than donuts. So in the next views that you'll be seeing, will be very quick about quick steps that you can take to cook to make your crepes or your Bofrot or your Botokoin, and it's how I do it. And yeah, I just wanted to share with you. I do it other ways, but I thought this way would be easier for beginners. So in case this was too easy for you or you don't do it the way I did it, let me know in the comments below. And also comment what food you would like me to do next. I'll be proposing idea on Instagram, and in case I don't see any comments. So let's get into it. So these are the main ingredients you will need to make your Botokoin. The first one is the sugar, very important. Then your all-purpose flour, make sure when you're buying it's all-purpose. And also your yeast, actually that's the most important ingredient of them all. Then the first step is taking your yeast, cutting it open with a scissor. And in this video I decided to use a teaspoon to measure it out, because you don't want to put too much yeast, because too much yeast won't be good for your Botokoin. So as you can see here, I am using my teaspoon. Then I'm going to measure it half full, not completely full, just half full, and then pouring it in my bowl, as you can see. Then after you do that, the following step is to measure out your sugar. I will have to be honest, after this video I only, as you can see in this video, I only measure 1 out of 8, 2 of it, and my Botokoin came out not sugary at all, and no one in the house wanted to eat it. So I advise you to instead use 1/4 of a cup and measure it twice to make your Botokoin taste good, because it's supposed to taste good and sugary. That's the main goal. But then in this video, as you can see, I am measuring 2 of the 1 out of 8 cup and pouring it inside the yeast. And the next step is I decided to use a teacup to measure out the water. Since you are using yeast, you want to use warm water, not too cold, not too hot, just warm, in order to make the yeast function faster. Then you pour your water in your bowl, and the next thing is to mix. You want your sugar to melt, your sugar and your yeast to melt. So you will mix them, keep mixing, as you may see. Just mix, and keep mixing. After you finish mixing your sugar and your yeast, the following step is to pour out your flour. So first what I did was to make sure that I am not putting too much. I measured 1 cup and then put it in first. Then I saw that wasn't enough. Then I measured another cup and put in again. Then I decided to wait, mix it first, and then figure out if I needed more. So as you can see, I am mixing it first. I keep mixing it, making sure that I mix it well, because you don't want it to be too hard. You don't also want it to be watery. So yeah, that's the step I am taking in here. Just mixing it. Then I figured out it wasn't enough, so I decided to measure another cup and put in. So that was 3 cups. Then another 1 out of 3 cup, because I figured it was too watery and I needed it to be a bit hard. So after I added that, I just kept mixing in order to make sure that I have it the way I want it. This should be how your dough should look at the end, not too hard, not too watery, as I mentioned. And after that, what you want to do is to go ahead and using a plastic wrap, wrap everything, wrap it all. As you can see I am doing here, you wrap it, and then after you finish wrapping, use your scissors to cut it. Then what you want to do after that is take your dough and putting it in a hot place, and what I thought of was the oven. That's what I do. Then you put it inside your oven and let it stay for a couple hours. By a couple hours, I mean 5 hours to be precise. So after 5 hours, I decided to remove it, and it really doesn't depend on the hour. It depends on making sure that the dough has risen. So anyway, the next step you will need to take is to put on your pan on the stove, and then put some oil. And by some oil, I mean a lot of oil. That's the only downside of this, is that it requires a lot of oil to fry it. And then what you want to do is to unwrap your dough. It's ready to be used, so you unwrap it, so you may see I'm doing here. Then it's ready to be fried. So this really requires you to use your hands. You can't really use a spoon. I haven't seen people use spoon. It requires you to use your hand. You will want to wash your hand, because the time we are living in right now, coronavirus, you don't want, even though they say it doesn't survive the heat, still wash your hand. Make sure you wash your hand very well. It does not have to be even related to corona. Usually you're supposed to wash your hand to do this. So that aside, what I did is to start frying, and this is how you basically do it. You put it in your hand, you roll it, and then you do it as such. Then you keep doing that. I'm doing here. I just kept putting more and more. You don't want to overwhelm it, but I also didn't want it to, I didn't want to fry it twice, so I decided to just go with it, with everything in it. And thank God the pan was big enough, and then I had enough space to do all that. So you keep doing that, and you also want to make sure you clean everything out of your fingers and you get everything in there. You don't want to waste dough. And right after you finish, what you want to do is to using a spoon. Not a spoon, I meant a fork. You will turn your Botokoin, which is already close to being done. And then you just keep making sure you are turning it. As you can see in here, I am turning it first. When it's like this, then it will start to change color. You make sure you're keeping an eye on it. Keep turning. Make sure you are keeping an eye on it. Keep turning. And then a couple minutes later, it's ready. When it looks like this, you don't want it to be burned, and you just remove it. Sorry for the spoon that I'm using in here, because I don't have the right spoon. Even though we make this a lot every day, we actually don't have the right spoon to do it. So yeah, you want to remove it quickly. Since there's a lot of oil, that's why I decided to put a tissue in my pan in order to, for the tissue to suck some of those oil out. And yeah, basically your Botokoin is ready, and ready to eat. And that's it for the Botokoin. The next one is the crepes.
I don't wanna look like you. My young nigga with a Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you.
These are the basic ingredients you will need to make your crepes. Forget, don't mind my measuring cups. You will need the milk. Here I decided to use soy milk. You don't have to use soy milk. It can be any kind of milk. Then your sugar, then your all-purpose flour, your butter, and your egg. An egg for this video. So the first step is to put in your flour. For this video, I decided to go ahead and use 2 cups of flour. So 2 full cups of flour. Then the following step you want to take is putting in your sugar. I always go with the sugar second. It doesn't matter. The order for this does not matter. So for the sugar, I decided to go ahead and use 1 out of 4. And actually for this one, it actually worked perfectly, because at the end, my crepe was so good. It tasted sugary. It was perfect. So this, you can actually follow the step by step as how I did in this video. So 1 out of 4. And then the next step is to put in your egg. As you can see, just an egg for this amount. If you are making more, maybe you want to use more eggs, depending on how much you want, but you don't want to put too much eggs. Then the next step was to put in my milk. For the milk, I decided to use again my 1 cup. Sorry for the mess. It's hard, man. So I measure out my milk. First I put in 1, then I decided to pour it in, then measured another 1 afterward, of course, because first I decided to put in my butter. So I left my butter out for a couple minutes, so it was already melting. Otherwise you will have to put it in the microwave to melt it a bit. Then after that, I just decided to mix. I just mixed. So keep in mind that this was only 1 cup of milk. Then as I was mixing, I saw that this was not going the way it's supposed to be, because compared to the Botokoin, you actually want this to be watery. So I was like, this is not working. I kept mixing, I kept trying. It was a big mess. But yeah, just keep trying. Don't just pour in a lot of milk first, as you see how I'm doing here. Even though I knew I needed more milk, I just decided to wait, make sure that all the flour is mixed with all the other ingredients, and then I decided to add more milk because I saw this was not gonna work. So I just added 1 more cup of milk, pour it in, and now mix. It was so hard, so I decided to go off camera in order to do this because it was terrible. And to be honest, I actually ended up using my hand. I washed my hand and mix it, because this mixing thing, I don't usually use it. I usually go with my hand, but then I didn't want to do that for the video. I wanted to show you guys the right way. Don't follow me, but it's easier with your hand. The main thing is to make sure you wash your hand. So this is how your thing should come out. Your crepe should come out to look like this, watery, compared to the Botokoin that was a bit hard. Then the next step you want to take is put in your pan on the oven, and then put in oil. You can use any kind of oil. I decided to use olive oil because I like olive oil. Then for this one, you don't need a lot of oil. You actually need a very, very tiny bit of oil, like tiny, as you can see here, very. And then you want to use your paper towel to clean it. Basically, all you're trying to do with your pan here is to moisturize it. You don't want to have a lot of oil. You're just trying to moisturize. Some people don't even put in oil anymore, because you already have the butter in the dough that you have mixed already. So yeah, depending on you, you can decide not to put in oil, but I do. So the first step is to pour in your dough. So you want to put some, just like this, not too much, and then you will expand it in the pan. Just keep expanding it to spread it everywhere, because this is crepe and you want it to be flat and nice. I struggled a bit because my pan was tiny, as you can see. After this video, I went and bought a new pan because this was terrible, but I still wanted to make the video, so I just used this pan. What you see me doing here is lowering the gas because it was a bit too hard, so I decided to lower it. Then the next step is you want to use your spoon, this spoon, and first thing is as you can see, I am doing here on the sides first, because you don't want to mess up your crepe. And here also you're going to need your hand, so using my hand, I carry it and then I turn it. Some people are good, so they just do as such and then they flip it and it works, but me, it never works, so I just use my hands. Then that's it. It actually literally take a minute for a crepe, like for one crepe like this to be done. You put it down, then repeat the steps. You want to do the same thing again. Take your dough, put it in, spread it everywhere in the pan, and then repeat the step. I don't know why I decided to make this too long, but I just wanted to show you one more round. So you do that, you spread it, then you will flip it the same way again, and voila, you have your crepe fully done and ready to be eaten. I usually accompany it with Nutella, so here you have it, my perfect dream.
The Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you. My young nigga with a Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you. My young nigga with a Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you. My young nigga with a Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you. My young nigga with a Rambo, you be getting took right through. Chap in a bando, I don't wanna look like you.